So that's the first lesson here, is to really read the Constitution and understand it, uncover the things that have been covered up. I did a video a couple weeks ago about the 13th Amendment. Now, if you're going to talk about the Constitution, yet you don't know about the covered up 13th Amendment, which is regarding the titles of nobility, then again, I mean, if you don't do your research and understand history, then how are you really going to plan for the future? All right, these are the pointers. These are the foundational pointers, which are going to be the flaws that I've discovered, the things that I've analyzed, and then they're going to be directing us towards solutions. So, number one, the Founding Fathers were all part of an oligarchy. That is beyond dispute. If you don't know the definition of oligarchy, and you have trouble comparing it with idealistic democracy or republic or whatever that is, these are the bourgeois, these are the privileged class, these are the ruling class, this is the thing that was put in to actually replace what Britain had over the colonies. So the supposed call for revolution and to create independence was to get rid of the tyranny and the control of a foreign imperial power. There's an empire with colonies, so that's the British crown, that's the British government. And through this supposed several years of fighting and struggling and intellectual meetings on how to form a new government, only came up with the new puppet. Okay, it's a puppet of Satan. Just like the British government was so evil, remember? Who was it? King George. After King Henry. Remember Henry after Henry? There's Magna Carta was already established, but they didn't follow it. Whatever good there was in it, because they became a puppet of these horrific, evil, shadowy, hidden powers. Same thing with the United States as it was formed. These people just became a puppet of the renewed power, the renewed evil. And I'm going to tell you what that is. It's money. They weren't there to really keep it in check, to keep it in perspective, to regulate it amongst all the people using it. They really wanted to use it to rule over everybody and keep everybody enslaved to its power. So they are puppets of money. Again, back to the definition of oligarchy. The oligarchy is basically your most powerful, well-heeled people that hobnob amongst themselves. It's an elite class. It is the top of the heap. It is the upper class. And what they will do is get together based on money. Who has the most money and wealth? That's a given. I mean, don't you see that? So if you're not in that crowd, if you haven't accomplished your raping and pillaging and heaping up your treasure, you're just like Jesus said, your treasures on earth. If you haven't done that, then you ain't going to get into the ruling class, and you wouldn't be a founding father of the U.S. and signer of the Constitution. Okay, so there we go. Now, I have implied what the solution is. You have to have a people based on no money, and you have to codify a foundational law about that. And these people need to agree to exist that way. But if and when they do get into profit making of money, which is still an option, it will be under the regulation of the new government. The government that is established by these people. And the people are the ones that are not going to be using money. As soon as you start using money, it's almost like the same 13th Amendment. It becomes a title of nobility. I'm going to tell you right now, I feel very strongly that when you use money, you've given up your citizenship of the people. You become someone who has to be regulated by the government. And also the government should not be allowed to make money. They should have their needs met for them, and they need to be monitored by an oversight. Okay, that brings me to the next huge foundational premise. And I think I'm going to end with this because I don't want the video to go on so long. This is just my next real serious video, after the first one was just introductory rants. The premise is that we need an oversight branch, which has never been put into the Constitution. Not only, I've already addressed the fact that the people were never defined fully, and the people were never involved in it. They invoked the people unfairly. The people had never spoken and never agreed to it. It's an illegitimate contract. It's done by coercion. It's done by omission. It's like, let's omit the people, but we'll just write them in anyhow. You know, this is a lie. This whole thing is just a sham. So the second premise that I'm going to bring up is that an oversight is very important. This is going to be just as powerful as the government itself to regulate commerce, but it's not going to be government, because they have to be outside of the government and they cannot hobnob amongst themselves. They have to be a totally separate class of people. In fact, they could be almost like priestly. You have to codify this. If you want to look at it as a religion or a clergy, I call it prophets. You know, if you look at the definition of a prophet, this is the person that points out the wrongs in society that done by those in charge, who are further, you know, making the people ignorant. The prophet always comes against the leader. Look at one of the tales of the greatest prophet in the Bible, which is an ancient historical study. It's not really anything, it's more about history than it is about God. God is an afterthought to it. They wanted to imply that there must have been a divine providence going on. But look at it as a historical record. At least on that level, you can understand very simply and just the facts that there was a prophet, and I believe, was his name Nathan? So he was going after the king, and the king was Saul. And this is when David, who was to be king, was a young man. So Saul was against David. And the prophet said, you know, king is out of line. And he said, you're going to be struck down. And no matter what you do, David is still going to take the throne. He's next in line, and you need to give it up now. And King Saul wouldn't do that. So this is how ancient Israel was founded. This is at the height of its power and its development. And by the calendar, which I don't believe is accurate, it shows that it was literally about over 3,000 years from today when this happened. I believe it was a less amount of time, but the calendar is a whole other debate. So we're talking about prophets should play a great role, and if we do have present-day prophets in America, we don't really call them that. It's like it's just at the tip of your tongue, but you really can't say it. You know, like Martin Luther King Jr. and, you know, people like this type. But you see that they get martyred. They don't really get much respect, and they really can't do anything until afterwards. They're like put up like, you know, hey, he's great, you know, now because he's been killed. But we didn't really listen and do anything about it. We marched around, but we didn't really have a chance to do something about it, like people in power, you know, didn't really follow it. And this is because it's not codified into the U.S. Constitution. If it was codified, if it was put there from the start, you would have a valid document. I'm calling on a revolutionary, powerful new document. I will advise you for this, and I'm calling on the wisest people to come together. If you are not wise, forget about it. You can be part of the audience. We'll have like a little constitutional idol for you, just like American Idol, and you can participate. And that'll be educational for you. But I need the wisest men to put themselves on the line and to get together and do this. So it's going to take a long time. I know they had something several years ago. I was just looking up some videos about it, and and maybe I have to glean some of the people from that, because that movement is flawed at the get-go also. So I'm not going to talk about them unless they come here. I'm not here promoting that. I'm promoting something totally new and something that's totally legit, that's going to be really important for the foundation of our future government. Thanks for listening. Make your comments, and make sure you subscribe.